In life, there is gain and loss, giving and receiving. But happiness lies not in the outcome, but in the state of mind as we walk our path. Everyone has their own journey, and as long as we maintain an optimistic mindset, we can still smile no matter how many storms life throws our way. For a smile doesn't mean we no longer suffer, but rather that we have learned how to find peace amidst suffering. Who among us hasn't experienced tiring days in this life, when sometimes even a small matter can stir our hearts? There are times when, looking around, we see only loneliness, feeling as if the whole world has turned its back on us. Some lose their smile because of work, while others toss and turn sleeplessly every night due to emotional turmoil. We strive to earn a living, racing against time, and sometimes forget that what we truly need is not a little more fame or money, but a little inner peace. Hearing the Buddha's teachings, we realize that life is inherently impermanent. What comes will go, and what is lost may be found again in a different form. What's important is whether our mind can maintain faith, whether it's bright enough to light our way. An optimistic person is one who knows how to light a lamp within their own heart. That light doesn't come from outside, but from understanding and compassion, from the belief that no matter how long the night, dawn will surely come. Pessimists often see darkness in everything, while optimists find a small candle even in the dark. It may be the same rain, but some complain of the cold, while others see the earth and sky being cleansed. It may be the same windy day, but some are afraid, while others see it as a challenge to grow stronger. A different mindset leads to a different life experience. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a mirror, and reality is like a reflection. If the mirror is clear, the reflection is bright. If the mirror is cloudy, the reflection is dim. When our mind is clear, life naturally becomes clear. We all long for happiness, but often we ceaselessly search for it outside ourselves. We believe that we need a lot of money to be happy, or recognition from others to feel secure. But the Buddha taught that true happiness doesn't lie in what we possess, but in how we perceive everything. A person can live in a simple house and still be joyful because they know contentment. Yet another may live in a mansion and still suffer because their greed never ceases. When we understand the Dharma, we learn to let go of unnecessary things, not to let go to lose, but to let go for the mind to be light. Like a leaf falling from a branch, it's not because its value is gone, but because it's time to return to Mother Earth. Life is the same. Some things come to teach us. Some people leave to help us grow. If we only focus on loss, we will forever suffer. But if we look with a grateful heart, we will see that everything has a beautiful karmic connection. An optimistic person is not one who avoids suffering, but one who knows how to smile within that suffering. They understand that every sadness has a reason. Every loss contains a lesson. They believe that even if the present is dark, light still awaits in the future. It is this faith that keeps them from falling. Just as a seed buried deep in the earth endures cold and darkness, it still strives to reach the sun. The Buddha once taught, "When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. If we keep waiting for life to be perfect, to be happy, we will never find joy. But if we can find peace, even in a storm, the storm becomes calm. Learn to smile when unpleasant things happen. Learn to be grateful when someone hurts you. Because these very things help us grow. When the heart is open, the world opens up too. When we learn to think optimistically, no matter the adversity, we can navigate it with a gentle smile. Life is short. Waking up each morning and seeing the sunlight is already a blessing. Cherish every moment of the present, for only when we live fully in the present can we experience true joy. Happiness lies not in tomorrow, but in this very moment. When our mind is at peace, our heart knows contentment. Therefore, heeding the Buddha's teachings, let's practice optimistic thinking, not to escape suffering, but to view suffering with compassionate eyes. Smile, even if life holds many challenges, for that smile not only beautifies the face, but also illuminates the soul. When the mind is clear, life naturally becomes clear. And when our heart is calm, happiness naturally arrives, like a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers to a rustic yet magical summer noon. Everyone in this life will have periods when they must live alone. Some reach old age, their children grown and gone their separate ways. The house, once filled with laughter, now only echoes with a gentle wind on the porch. Others, in the prime of their lives, find love unfulfilled, destinies unachieved, and are forced to learn to cope with evenings without anyone by their side. There are also those who feel lonely in their hearts, even amidst crowded city streets, as if adrift in a sea of people, utterly alone. People fear loneliness because they believe it means emptiness, loss, and coldness. But those who practice the Dharma understand that being alone is not something to fear. It is an opportunity to return to oneself, to understand oneself, and to heal the wounds that one has avoided for so long. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Lan, a woman in her 60s, sat by the window of her small house in a quiet countryside village. Each raindrop touched the old roof tiles, flowing in small streams down the eaves. She looked out at the garden where autumn leaves were falling, then gently smiled. Before, whenever it rained, she would feel a heavy heart, missing her children, her grandchildren, and the years when her home was full. But now, accustomed to the silence, she saw the rain's own beauty. The rain calmed the earth and sky, prompting people to live slower, to listen to their own hearts. She softly said, "At this age, my children are busy. I must learn to be with myself." This simple statement holds the wisdom that many young people still haven't grasped. We fear being alone because we are unaccustomed to stillness. We are afraid to confront ourselves, afraid to see the wounds in our minds, afraid to hear the voices of things we haven't let go of. But it is in these very moments, when there is no noise, no one to distract our emotions, that our mind truly has the chance to settle down, to heal. Mrs. Lan wakes early every morning. As the sunlight first touches the bamboo canopy at the alley's entrance, she already has the kettle boiling for a cup of green tea and turns on her old radio. The chanting of Amitabha Buddha echoes steadily. Namo Amitabha Buddha. This sound doesn't just fill the small room, but also her heart. Each chant is a breath, and each breath is a moment for the mind to be purified. Mrs. Lan doesn't chant or read extensively. She simply sits still, allowing her mind to settle with each recitation of the Buddha's name. She says that chanting is not to ask anyone for anything, but for her own heart to find peace, for her mind to remain unwavering amidst life's changes. Truly, when we are alone, all sounds are clearer, all emotions more subtle. Just by sitting still and breathing deeply, we can hear the birds outside the window, the wind touching the leaves, and even the beat of our own heart. Every inhalation is life entering the body. Every exhalation is affliction dissolving into space. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "By oneself is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is good done. By oneself is one purified." This means no one can make us suffer, and no one can grant us peace and joy but ourselves. Loneliness or happiness are both creations of one's own mind. Being alone can be sad, but that is when we learn to listen to ourselves. Being alone can be lonely, but that is when the mind is tempered. Being alone can mean missing someone, but it is in that very longing that we learn to love without attachment, to have compassion without resentment. When there's no one by our side to talk to, we learn to talk to our own mind. When there's no one to remind us, we learn to remind ourselves to live wholesomely and keep our minds pure. Many people ask, how do I overcome loneliness? In truth, it's not about overcoming loneliness, but about learning to live with it. Just as we live with our breath, live with darkness, live with rain and sun. Everything has a purpose in teaching us something. Loneliness teaches us to appreciate having someone by our side. Loneliness teaches us that all happiness truly begins with inner peace. Mrs. Lan recounted that initially, during her first nights living alone, she would leave the lights on all night, fearing the dark. But then one day she turned off the lights and sat in silence. She realized that darkness itself was not frightening. It was the fear within her own mind that was truly scary. True light doesn't come from a lamp, but from the clarity of the soul. From that day on, every evening, she meditated, sitting still, feeling her breath go in and out, clearly hearing her heartbeat. When her mind was at peace, everything around her became gentler. One morning, a neighbor stopped by and asked, "Mrs. Lan, living alone like this, aren't you sad?" She smiled and softly replied, "No, not sad. Loneliness also has its own flowers, if only one knows how to look." That remark left the listener momentarily speechless. Indeed, when we know how to look, we see that loneliness can also be beautiful, because that is when we live genuinely with our hearts, without forced smiles or hidden feelings. The Buddha once taught, "When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace." If our heart is full of turmoil, no matter how many people are around, we will still feel lonely. But if our mind is calm, even if we are alone, we will feel complete. One who practices meditation doesn't need to go to a grand temple or burn billowing incense. They simply need to return to their own breath. The breath is the bridge between body and mind. When we inhale, we receive life. When we exhale, we release worries. Just a few minutes of practice each day, and we will find our mind settling, light as an early morning petal. Living alone is a precious opportunity to understand that happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. Many people spend their whole lives searching for someone to lean on, only to forget that the most steadfast refuge is one's own mind. When we are no longer afraid to be alone, that is when we truly mature. When we can sit peacefully in a small room, needing no music, no words, yet still feeling content, it means our mind has begun to awaken. Try sitting still for a few minutes each day. Turn off all external sounds, leaving only your breath. Feel the air gently flowing in and out like a river. Look within to see what your mind is thinking, whether it's zen or worried. Don't judge, just observe. And gradually, those thoughts will settle like sediment in water, leaving a clear lake surface. When the mind is clear, the heart naturally feels content, loves oneself more, and finds it easier to love others. Loneliness is a silent teacher. It doesn't teach with words, but with experience. Thanks to loneliness, we learn patience. Thanks to loneliness, we learn to let go. And thanks to loneliness, we learn to cherish every moment when someone enters our lives. Loneliness teaches us that no one can hurt us if we don't allow it, and no one can make us happy if we don't open our hearts to receive. Mrs. Lan once said, "In the past, I feared loneliness, but now I'm grateful for it. Because of loneliness, I understood the value of existence." That statement makes us suddenly realize that sometimes what we fear most is the very door that opens to the most precious spiritual insights. So, if you are living alone, don't see it as misfortune. See it as a precious time life has granted you to slow down, understand yourself better, and love yourself more. Light a small lamp in your heart with breath, with chanting the Buddha's name, with gratitude. When the mind is illuminated, you will find nothing is empty. Waking up each morning just by hearing the birds sing, seeing the sunlight fall on the porch, you will realize happiness is right here. In every breath, in every present moment, loneliness is not emptiness, but a space of quietude for the mind to reflect, for the heart to return. Being alone is not scary. What's scary is not knowing how to love oneself. And when you know how to love yourself, how to cherish every breath, then no matter where you are, even if you are alone, you are living in peace and joy. For as the Buddha taught, by oneself is good done, by oneself is one purified. When we achieve that, all loneliness will transform into light, all quietude into peace. And in the small room of life, our mind will blossom into a fragrant lotus, gently illuminating ourselves and the entire world. There are days when the rain falls for a very long time, dripping through old roof tiles, over silently wet flower beds, through fingers gently trembling on a warm teacup. Some sit quietly by the window, listening to the rain, feeling their hearts melt away, drop by drop. Life's losses, those who have passed, old memories suddenly rush back, like an early season wind blowing through the heart. When we lose something, the mind often clings to old images, a piece of clothing, a word spoken, an embrace that was never given. We believe the pain will gradually fade with time, but sometimes years only make memories deeper and tears more silent. Ms. Mai was one such person. She once had a simple yet warm life with her kind, loving husband. They lived in a small house. In the mornings, he watered the plants. In the afternoons, they sat on the porch drinking tea together. They weren't wealthy, but they had each other. Then, one day, the wind of impermanence arrived. A sudden accident on the road took her husband forever. The small house suddenly became empty. No one was left to pour the boiling tea. The chair on the porch remained vacant from that day on. Ms. Mai knelt by his photograph, clutching the bracelet he had given her on her birthday, crying until her voice was hoarse. Every day she looked at that bracelet, as if afraid to forget the image of the lost one. In her heart, the pain had become a tight rope binding her. She said, "If I let go of this sorrow, it means I'm betraying him." Yet, prolonged pain did not deepen her love. It only made her heart heavier. One night, she dreamed he smiled and softly said, "Don't be sad anymore, my dear. I'm gone, but I'm still here. In every breath, every tear you shed." Waking up, she burst into tears again, half believing, half doubting. Then one morning, as if something urged her, she decided to visit the local temple. When she met the Venerable Master, she poured out her heart. The Master listened silently, with compassionate eyes. Then he said, "What you lost was only a form. The love you still hold in your heart. The physical body is impermanent, but true intention and love are not lost." Hearing that, Ms. Mai froze. Each word was like nectar dropping onto her withered heart. For the first time after months of sorrow, she didn't cry. From then on, every evening she lit incense, joined her palms, and chanted the Buddha's name. She dedicated merits to her deceased husband, praying for his early liberation, and her heart gradually felt lighter. Sometimes, while meditating, she felt as if a gentle hand was placed on her shoulder, warm and tender. She smiled, understanding that he had never truly left. He had only gone to another realm. And love remained, silent yet profound, always nearby. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "Nothing in this world is permanent. All phenomena arise from causes and conditions. When conditions are met, they gather. When conditions expire, they dissipate." Intellectually, everyone understands this, but to live in accordance with impermanence is very difficult, because humans are always afraid of loss. We fear losing loved ones, losing possessions, losing youth, losing status, even losing ourselves. This fear makes us cling tightly to things we cannot hold. But the more we cling, the more we suffer, for life naturally flows like a river. A leaf on a branch will fall in autumn. A blooming flower will wither. A laugh today may be tears tomorrow. Yet, it is precisely because of impermanence that we learn to cherish each moment. If everything were unchanging, we would never learn to love, to let go, to truly live. One who understands impermanence is one who sees in dissolution new beginnings, in loss an opportunity to start anew. Ms. Mai changed greatly after days of chanting the Buddha's name. She no longer looked at the bracelet with tears, but with gratitude. Every morning, she still brewed tea, still looked out at the garden, but her eyes held a sense of tranquility. She told the Venerable Master, "Before, I thought letting go meant forgetting. But now I understand that letting go is loving in a different way. It's allowing the departed to find peace, and for one's own heart to be light. The Master smiled gently. Yes, indeed. Letting go is not losing. It is saving oneself. Letting go is not easy, for the human mind is inherently attached. We often link happiness to what we can grasp. When we have it, we are happy. When we lose it, we suffer. But happiness doesn't truly lie in having or not having, but in whether our mind knows contentment and acceptance, like a lotus in the mud, unafraid of defilement, simply blossoming silently. Similarly, a spiritual practitioner cannot avoid life's sorrows, but can choose to blossom within them. One day, when Ms. Mai visited the temple again, she brought a bouquet of white lotus flowers. She placed them before the Buddha's altar and softly prayed, "I thank you for teaching me that nothing lasts forever, not even sadness. Thanks to impermanence, I learned to love without attachment, to be compassionate without suffering." As she left, she looked up at the sky. Clouds drifted lightly. The wind rustled through the bamboo grove. The temple bell echoed in the distance. She knew her husband was smiling somewhere. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean being emotionless, but rather opening one's heart to embrace both joy and sorrow with equanimity. When we accept that life is change, we no longer resist or complain. We simply live fully in every breath, every moment. When good things come, we are grateful. When loss occurs, we are also grateful. For through it, we learn new lessons. In life, we cannot hold on to anything forever. What we call ours is, in fact, only temporary. This very body is merely borrowed from the four elements: earth, water, wind, and fire. When the karmic connections expire, everyone must return it. Knowing this helps us to lessen contention, anger, and stubbornness. The deeper one understands impermanence, the lighter one lives, like a cloud. Some ask, if everything changes, what is there to trust? The answer is, trust in your own wholesome mind. For amidst impermanence, only a clear mind is a true refuge. The Buddha taught that in this world, nothing is more trustworthy than a compassionate mind. If we can maintain compassion, even when life changes, we will not lose our way. Learning to accept impermanence is a long journey. It doesn't happen in a day, but through every experience. Each time there's a loss, instead of asking why, try asking, what is this teaching me? Each time there's suffering, instead of complaining, breathe and look deeply. Where does this suffering arise from? When the root is seen, suffering dissolves like sediment in clear water. Just by stopping the wind, the water will settle and reflect the moon's shadow. If someone is listening to these words, perhaps you too are carrying some pain in your heart. The loss of a loved one, a love, a belief, or your youth. Allow yourself to cry, for tears are also a form of purification. But after the tears, sit down, take a deep breath, and chant Namo Amitabha Buddha. That chant is a thread leading you back to the present, a path to peace amidst the storm. When we understand impermanence, we will no longer be afraid. When we know how to let go, we will see that in loss, there is gain. A flower falls for another to bloom tomorrow. A drop of water falls to fill the river. Someone leaves for us to learn to love more deeply. Everything has its reason for existence. And as the Buddha taught, letting go is not losing, but a path back to oneself. The temple bell echoes in the quiet night throughout the village, incense smoke drifting lightly. Ms. Mai joins her palms and bows her head. Her face is serene, her eyes gentle as water. On the altar, the bracelet still lies there, shimmering under the candlelight. But now, it is no longer a symbol of pain, but a testament to love transformed into compassion. If someone were to ask her what happiness is, she would smile. It is when you accept that nothing lasts forever and are grateful for that. Life is like a breeze. It comes and goes, but the scent of flowers lingers. People depart, but love remains in our hearts like a small lamp illuminating the path. Live with gratitude. Love with awareness. Let go with peace. For only when we accept impermanence can we truly live fully in every present moment. And then, happiness is no longer something to be sought, but is this breath, this smile, the warm tea in our hands, and the inner peace in our hearts. There are mornings when we wake up to the noise of the city, to accumulated worries, with residual annoyance from yesterday still lingering in our minds. A small incident, an unpleasant glance, a careless word, a scratch on our car, a reproach from someone, is enough to stir our hearts. We don't realize that it is precisely in such moments that our mind is being tested. And if we don't learn to open our hearts, if we let droplets of vexation drip into our hearts every day, then we will be the first to suffer. Mr. Tam, an office worker living in the bustling city, was a meticulous person who liked everything neat, orderly, and exactly to his liking. He had just bought a new car, a reward for years of hard work. That morning, as he went down to the basement to get his car for work, he discovered a long scratch on the side of his car, with white paint exposed amidst the gleaming black finish. It looked truly unsightly, and a burst of anger flared within him. He cursed loudly, suspecting everyone. That entire morning, he went to work with a sour face, not responding to colleagues' greetings, and snapping at anyone who asked him anything. In his heart, there was only one thought. Why me? How can people be so thoughtless? That afternoon, after work, a light rain fell. Mr. Tam drove home, the simmering anger still in his head. As he passed a small road near the familiar temple, he heard the temple bell resonating through the rain. The sound seemed to pierce through the layers of dust and smoke in his heart, causing him to involuntarily slow down and then stop altogether. He stood before the temple gate, watching the raindrops fall on the moss-covered roof tiles, listening to the chanting from afar. In that moment, his heart suddenly softened. He walked into the temple courtyard and sat on a stone bench. An old monk sweeping leaves saw him and simply smiled. A little later, he heard a Dharma talk echoing from the main hall. When the heart is narrow, worries come easily. When the heart is broad, the world is boundless. This simple statement was like a cool breeze blowing through his angry soul. He closed his eyes and listened. The more he listened, the lighter he felt. Suddenly, he realized that the car could be repaired, but a mind wounded by anger was what truly caused him suffering. That night, returning home, he tried to follow the master's teachings. He bathed cleanly, sat quietly on his bed, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. In his mind, the image of the scratched car appeared. But instead of anger, he whispered, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." Each chant, each breath was like a cool stream of water, washing away the dust of vexation. After a while, he felt more peaceful in his heart. His face relaxed, his breathing slowed. The next morning, when he looked at the car again, he just smiled. He understood that loss is sometimes just a lesson in letting go. From then on, Mr. Tam began practicing metta bhavana, compassion meditation, every day. When someone said something that hurt him, he practiced wishing them well in his mind. When things didn't go his way, he closed his eyes, breathed, and chanted the Buddha's name. He realized that the broader his heart became, the more beautiful the world around him appeared. The ancients said, "One moment of anger arises. 100 doors of negative karma open. But just one moment of compassion arises. 100 doors of blessing appear." In life, who hasn't experienced vexation? But what causes us suffering is not what happens, but how we react to it. When our heart is narrow, we see everyone as wrong, everyone as blameworthy. When our heart is broad, we see everyone as suffering, everyone on a path to learning compassion. The more one tries to prove oneself right, the easier it is to err in one's mind. One who knows how to step back can see the vast ocean and sky. The Buddha taught that a peaceful mind is a blessing. For when the mind is at peace, we view life with compassionate eyes, without anger, without rivalry. A peaceful mind doesn't mean avoiding storms, but rather not losing oneself even when storms arise. When our heart is clear, no matter how strong the external wind, it cannot sweep us away. Many people think happiness means having a lot and holding on tightly. But the more we cling, the more we worry, the more we fear loss, the more insecure we become. But when we know how to let go, we feel as light as a flower, drifting on water. In that letting go, it's not abandonment, but an understanding that everything in life is impermanent. A new car will eventually be old. A big house will eventually decay. Loved ones will eventually depart. But only an open heart, a compassionate heart, is the blessing that never perishes. A person with a narrow mind only sees the faults of others. A person with a broad mind only sees the suffering of others. When we see someone speak harshly, instead of getting angry, let's understand that they are in pain. When someone does wrong, instead of scorning, let's understand that they are lost. Each person has their own story, their own unhealed wounds. A compassionate mind doesn't demand immediate forgiveness, but helps us to understand and not harbor resentment. Some ask, how can my heart become broader? The answer lies in every breath, every small action. When we sit with ourselves, observing our breath flowing in and out, we will realize that inner peace doesn't come from outside, but from inner awareness. Each morning, when you wake up, instead of rushing to check your phone or think about work, spend a few minutes chanting the Buddha's name, wishing yourself and everyone well. When someone bothers you, don't react hastily. Pause, take a deep breath, and silently say, "May that person be at peace." Just one thought like that, and the mind is different. Practicing metta bhavana means looking at people with compassionate eyes. When you see others make mistakes, don't judge. Instead, ask yourself, if I were in that situation, Would I do better? When someone speaks harshly, don't let those words linger in your mind. Let them flow away like wind through bamboo leaves. For the wind cannot break the bamboo. It only teaches the bamboo to bow. And bowing is a manifestation of compassion. When our heart is broad, everything becomes easier. When someone praises us, we are happy, but not arrogant. When someone criticizes us, we are sad, but not resentful. When we gain, we are grateful. When we lose, we smile. All are karmic connections. When connections arrive, we accept them. When they depart, we bid them farewell. A person with a broad mind doesn't need to defeat anyone, because they know that defeating others is only temporary, but conquering oneself is eternal. Mr. Tam, after many months of practice, became completely different. Colleagues said he smiled more, spoke softer, and rarely lost his temper. One day, someone scratched his car in the parking lot again. But this time, he just looked at it and smiled, took a cloth to wipe the scratch, and went to work as usual. In his heart, there was a strange sense of joy. He recounted that, surprisingly, when he didn't get angry, everything became very small. As long as his heart was at peace, nothing was worth getting upset about. One with a peaceful mind is blessed, for blessings do not lie in material possessions, but in how we face life. A poor person who knows how to smile and give still has more blessings than a rich person who is always envious and competitive. One who knows how to open their heart, even with nothing in hand, can still warm others. Blessings do not come from what we accumulate, but from what we can let go of. When the heart is broad, happiness naturally manifests. For happiness is not external, but lies in how we perceive things. A person who is grateful for the meal in front of them, who cherishes every moment of life, is someone living in a state of blessing. That person may not have much money, but has much joy. That person may not avoid suffering, but does not let suffering overwhelm their mind. Once, someone asked an old monk in the temple, "Venerable Master, how can my mind find peace?" The master replied, shaking his head, "By being grateful. When you are grateful, you will see that this life is already complete. When you feel complete, your heart naturally becomes broad. When your heart is broad, happiness will come." It sounds simple, but to achieve it requires daily practice. Start by observing your mind. When you feel angry, don't blame yourself. Just acknowledge, I am angry. When you feel sad, don't rush to chase it away. Just breathe and say, I am sad. Simply acknowledging it helps the mind begin to find peace. A practitioner is not someone who no longer has vexations, but someone who knows how to return to themselves whenever vexations arise. The Buddha taught that a wise person is like a calm lake. Even when the wind blows, it still reflects the moon. If our heart is not clear, even the brightest moon cannot be reflected. Therefore, whenever something happens, return to your breath. Chant the Buddha's name so the mind can return to the present. Life naturally cannot avoid scratches, both on cars and in our hearts. But if each scratch is a lesson, then the more scratches, the more we grow. When we learn to see everything with compassionate eyes, we no longer fear being hurt. For we know that today's pain will transform into tomorrow's blessing. When we live with a peaceful mind, everyone around us also finds peace. Children, seeing their parents gentle, learn patience. Spouses who yield to each other make a warmer home. Neighbors, seeing us happy, also become fond of us. Our mind is the root. Our life is the fruit. When the mind is at peace, blessings arise. When the heart is broad, happiness comes. And then, every evening before sleep, if you can sit quietly, join your palms and softly chant Namo Amitabha Buddha, sending blessings to those who made you sad. You will feel your heart lighten like a gentle breeze. Then sleep will come deeply, like a child in its mother's arms. Remember the Buddha's teaching. One wholesome thought is a seed of blessing. One moment of peace is a seed of happiness. Let us sow these seeds in our hearts every day. Don't wait for life to be storm-free to find peace. Instead, let your mind be a calm lake amidst the storms. When our heart is broad enough, everything becomes light. When our mind is peaceful enough, every place is a Buddha land. There are evenings when the sun slants through the window, and we suddenly recall a familiar voice. "My child, have you eaten yet?" That voice once annoyed us, because back then we were young, busy, always chasing distant things. We didn't know that one day that voice would only echo in our memories, and we would long to hear it just one more time, even if only in a dream. Life has things that, once lost, we realize were blessings. Parents are such precious things. To have parents means having a place to return to, a warm home, a hand ready to cook us a meal, worried eyes watching us leave and waiting for our return. When parents pass away, even if the world remains the same, in our hearts we feel an emptiness, as if a piece of the sky has lost its light. Mr. Hung was a migrant worker. He left home when he was just over 20, carrying dreams of changing his life. For 3 years, working in the city, he rarely visited home. Whenever his mother called, he would often say, "I'm very busy, Mom. I'll call you back tomorrow." Then those calls were postponed, forgotten, replaced by long days of overtime, short sleeps in a cramped, rented bed. He thought that when he had money, he would return and buy his mother a new dress, take her to the market for a delicious meal. He didn't know that some promises to a mother don't always come with the opportunity to fulfill them. One evening, he received news that his mother had been hospitalized, and he felt as if his whole body went numb. He took a bus home through the night, his heart in turmoil, tears uncontrollably flowing. But when he arrived, his mother was no longer conscious. She lay still, her face gentle as if asleep. He knelt by her bed, held her frail hand, and choked out, "Mom, I haven't even had a chance to tell you I miss you." In the small house, his sobs mingled with the rustling wind outside the porch. Outside, the bamboo grove gently swayed, like the shadow of his mother from years past, still standing and waiting for her child. Neighbors came to console him, but nothing could fill the emptiness in his heart. When his mother was alive, he saw her call as small matters. When she passed, he understood that just hearing her voice was a blessing. After the funeral, he stayed in his hometown for a few days. One morning, he walked past the village temple and heard the bell ringing. The sound made him stop. He walked in, sat under a Bodhi tree, and looked up at the moss-covered temple roof, where a sign read, "Filial piety to both parents." The temple monk was giving a Dharma talk to a few Buddhists about filial piety. The monk said, "The Buddha taught that repaying gratitude to parents is the foremost practice for a spiritual practitioner. A filial child is a blessed child. Parents are living Buddhas in the home. If one has parents, but does not know how to respect and love them, they miss the most precious opportunity for spiritual practice." Mr. Hung sat and listened, tears still falling. The master recounted that in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught that even if one carried one's father on the right shoulder and mother on the left shoulder, caring for them for 100 years, one still would not have fully repaid their kindness. Parents are our roots. If the roots are gone, the tree, no matter how green, will lose its vitality. After the talk, he lit incense before the Buddha statue, then turned to his parents' altar. He silently said, "Mom, I regret it so much. From now on, I vow to live well, do good deeds, help the poor, considering it as my way of repaying your kindness." From that day on, Mr. Hung resigned from the industrial park and returned to work near his hometown. Every evening, as he passed the temple, he would stop, join his palms, and chant, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." He said that each time he chanted, he felt his mother was still nearby, hearing every word and seeing every action he took. People often think that repaying gratitude to parents means doing something grand, or providing them with a lot of money and possessions. But the Buddha taught that filial piety lies not in material things, but in the heart. Just a word of concern, a meal shared with parents, an instance of truly listening is already an act of filial piety. In the Ulambana Sutra, Venerable Maudgalyayana saved his mother from hell, not through supernatural powers, but through his filial heart and sincerity. Therefore, a child who practices the Dharma, a child who lives wholesomely, is indeed repaying their parents. Parents are the root of blessings. While parents are alive, there is still an opportunity for us to accumulate merit. Every time we care for, pay attention to, and bring joy to our parents, that blessing is not only for them, but also nourishes ourselves. Some people think that caring for elderly parents is a burden, but in fact, it is an opportunity to cultivate the mind, to learn compassion and patience. When we practice filial piety, our heart naturally softens. When we do good deeds for our parents, good karma naturally arises. Many people go to temples to pray for peace, for career success, for wealth, but forget that the greatest blessing is still having parents to care for. Some wealthy people still feel empty inside because their parents are gone. Some poor people, however, just by being able to rub their mother's feet every evening or hear their father tell old stories, feel they are living in a Buddha land. The Buddha taught that filial piety is the gateway to compassion. Anyone who lacks filial piety will struggle to develop a broad, loving heart. For parents are our first lesson in love, patience, and gratitude. When we learn to love our parents unconditionally, we will learn to love others without resentment. When we learn to forgive our parents, we also learn to forgive life. Modern life makes many people forget that their parents are aging day by day. We are busy with work, plans, earning a living. Sometimes just a phone call or a text message can bring peace to our parents' hearts. But we hesitate or think, "I'll do it tomorrow." There are some tomorrows that never come, some calls we will never have the chance to make, and by the time we realize it, there are only tears. A blessed person is one who can still call out, Mom and Dad. For parents not only gave us our physical bodies, but also taught us the first lessons of karma, of wholesomeness. While they are still here, cherish every moment. Don't wait until only a photograph remains to bow in belated apology. If you are hearing these words, try to pause for a moment, close your eyes, and think about your parents. Think about their silvering hair, their wrinkled hands that once cooked you every meal, their eyes that have grown dim from waiting for your return. Then open your phone and call them, even if it's just to say, I'm fine, Mom and Dad. Don't worry. Just that much is enough to warm their hearts. Practicing filial piety is not just an action, but a way of life. Live in a way that pleases your parents. Don't argue. Don't speak harshly, even if your parents say something you disagree with. Remember that they don't need you to be right. They just need you to be virtuous. When your parents speak, even if you are an adult, listen with respect, because one day you will be in that position, and you will wish your children would listen to you that way. If your parents have passed away, don't be sad. The Buddha taught that filial piety does not end with physical presence. Light an incense stick, chant a Buddha's name, and dedicate the merits to your parents. Do good deeds to help others. Chant sutras. Release living beings. Every good deed you do is a flower offered to your parents in another realm. When your mind is clear, your parents will find liberation. When your heart is wholesome, your parents will find peace. Mr. Hung later became a kind person, always helping lonely elderly people. Every time he did a good deed, he would silently chant, Mom, I'm doing this for you. In his heart, sadness gradually transformed into peace. He understood that his mother had never left. She had only changed form to watch over him. One late afternoon, Mr. Hung stood in the temple courtyard watching the light rain fall, and a deep sense of gratitude arose within him. He thought, if he could go back in time, he would hug his mother for a long time. He would say, I love you very much. But he no longer had the opportunity. Therefore, he chose to love all mothers in the world the way he loved his own. One who understands filial piety has learned the Dharma. Filial piety is not just a responsibility, but a path of spiritual cultivation. When we treat our parents well, we are sowing wholesome seeds for our future children and grandchildren. When we forget our parents, we are also sowing seeds of unfilial conduct, and the karmic retribution will surely return, sooner or later. Therefore, the Buddha taught that a filial person is blessed, and an ungrateful person loses blessings. Life is short. Parents age every day. Each gray hair is a reminder. Each wrinkle is a trace of love. Go home and sit down to eat a meal with your parents. Don't wait for a special occasion, for the most precious occasion is today. Hold your parents' hands. Say a simple sentence, I love you, Mom and Dad. No need for flowers, no need for gifts. Just those sincere words are enough to bring them profound joy. A parent's love is an ocean, and we are but small waves. Waves can travel far, but they always belong to the sea. No matter how far we go, our hearts will always turn to that origin, for parents are the source of all love in this life. While we can still love, still repay, that is a blessing. Remember the Buddha's teaching. Parents at home are like the Buddha in the world. While you still have parents, you still have living Buddhas in your home. Don't let them depart in loneliness. Let them depart with a smile in your embrace, in chanted prayers, and in peaceful breaths. Finally, when night falls, join your palms and softly chant Namo Amitabha Buddha. Then silently say, I am grateful for my parents. I vow to live filially, so my parents may be at peace. That chant not only warms your parents' hearts, but also illuminates your own mind like a lamp in the dark. Because having parents means having a great blessing. Having parents means having a sheltering porch. Having parents means having a path home. And when you cherish that, your life will become complete, warm, and peaceful, like the light of Buddha shining in your heart. In this life, who hasn't received help from others? Some things we remember, some have faded with time. But every outstretched hand, every gentle gaze, every word of encouragement when we felt weak, all are seeds of blessing sown in our hearts. Gratitude is how we water that seed of blessing every day, so it blossoms into wholesome flowers in life. As long as we maintain a grateful heart, we still hold a part of the light within our hearts. Today, amidst the hustle and bustle of life, some are so busy they forget to eat, forget to sleep, and also forget that they were once loved. We get used to receiving and rarely pause to express appreciation. We think that everything we have is obvious, the result of our own efforts, and gradually our hearts become hardened. But the Buddha taught that a person who knows gratitude and repays kindness is planting the most enduring seeds of blessing. There is a small story full of the light of gratitude. Miss Toei, a retired teacher, lived in a small house at the end of an alley. All her life, she lived simply, unburdened by material possessions. When she was teaching, she always cared for her poor students. There was a student named Nam who lived far away and was so poor that some days he didn't have money to buy notebooks. Ms. Tui secretly helped him without saying a word. She lent him books, discreetly slipped a few loaves of bread into his bag, and told him, "Study hard, my child, so you can help others later." Many years passed, and her hair gradually turned gray. One autumn day, when yellow leaves covered the yard, she received a small card, on the outside of which was written simply, "To the teacher who lit the lamp for me that year." Inside the envelope were just a card and a handwritten letter. The student from those days was now successful. In the letter, he recounted, "Back then, I thought I couldn't afford to continue studying. But every time I thought of you, remembered your words, my heart felt warm. You gave me faith. You were the one who lit the lamp for me that year. Now I can shine that light for many others." Ms. Tui finished reading, tears streaming down her cheeks. Not because of the card, not because of her successful student, but because she felt warmth in her heart. It turned out that the small thing she had once done was still remembered by someone after all these years. That night, she opened her old notebook and wrote a short line. "Today, I am grateful that a student remembered me." The story seems simple, but it contains a profound lesson about karmic connections. She didn't help others expecting anything in return, and the student's gratitude wasn't meant as repayment. But in that connection, both sowed a wholesome seed, both nurtured a virtuous heart, and both lived harmoniously in human kindness. The Buddha taught that gratitude and repaying kindness are the paths that lead us to wholesomeness. A grateful person, no matter how difficult life may be, always keeps a light in their heart. When we are grateful, we not only direct our hearts towards others, but also cultivate compassion, patience, and humility within ourselves. Some people suffer not because they are poor, but because they forget gratitude. They constantly blame life, others, and even themselves, without realizing that it is their ungrateful mind that exhausts them. A grateful person always sees the light in small things. A bowl of white rice, a drop of water, a greeting, a helping hand, all are precious karmic connections. When we learn to appreciate, we will no longer feel lacking. Conversely, when we only see what we don't have, when we constantly compare ourselves to others, vexation arises in our hearts. Insecurity comes from a mind that is not content, and a mind that is not content arises from an ungrateful mind. A grateful person doesn't demand that life be perfect, but only wishes for enough clarity to recognize the good that is present. The Buddha once taught in the Anguttara Nikaya, one who is ungrateful, who does not repay kindness, is no different from one who withers in the desert, unable to bear fruit. This means that when we live without appreciating karmic connections, we gradually lose the wholesome energy in our minds. Gratitude is not just an emotion, but a spiritual practice, a path to peace and joy. Some say gratitude is the shortest way to happiness, because when we are grateful, we stop complaining. When we are grateful, we feel lighter. When we are grateful, we realize that even in suffering, there are precious things. Perhaps we don't have much money, but we have legs to walk, eyes to see, breath to feel. Perhaps we lost someone, but they once came and left love. Perhaps we stumbled, but that very experience taught us humility. If we spend a few minutes each day remembering these things, life will naturally become warmer. Every evening before sleep, we can close our eyes, take a deep breath, and think of 3 things we are grateful for that day. Grateful for waking up this morning, for someone checking in, for the rain watering the plants on the porch, or simply for not being angry at anyone today. Gratitude doesn't have to be something grand. It just needs to be sincere. When we practice gratitude, we are purifying our minds from envy and resentment. From there, we easily feel joy, easily forgive, and live harmoniously with everyone. Someone once said that a grateful person always has heaven in their heart. That saying is not flowery language, but truth. A grateful person sees kindness everywhere. They walk through life without feeling lonely, because in every breath, every step, they feel a deep connection with all things. Try for once, when drinking a glass of water, to pause for a second and think, where did this drop of water come from? It came from a distant stream, sheltered by Mother Nature, brought to us through pipes by much effort. Every drop of water is a miraculous, karmic connection. When we realize that, we feel our hearts soften and life becomes sacred. In Buddhism, gratitude is also the root of compassion. A person grateful to their parents will never live thoughtlessly. A person grateful to their teachers will not forget the source of the Dharma. A person grateful for life will live more wholesomely. A person grateful even for adversity will grow and deepen. Therefore, when we are grateful, we are learning to love unconditionally. Some karmic connections come and go. Some people help us, then leave. But if we maintain gratitude, they will forever live in our hearts, like Ms. Tui in that story. The small card made her relive all those past years. It was not just joy, but a confirmation that every good deed we do has meaning, even if it's just a grain of sand in the desert. The Buddha taught that a grateful person is one who understands the Dharma. For gratitude is not just a virtue, but an expression of wisdom. When we are grateful, we realize that everything relies on each other to exist. Nothing is truly ours. This body, this breath, the food we eat, the water we drink, all are formed by countless karmic connections. Gratitude is seeing that connection, to no longer be arrogant or conceited. In truth, the longer one practices, the more one understands that gratitude is the foundation of all merit. A person who chants the Buddha's name without a grateful heart, that chanting is merely sound. But a person who chants the Buddha's name with a grateful heart, every chant is a blossoming lotus. Therefore, if one day you find your heart parched, finding nothing precious left in this life, start again with 2 words. Thank you. Thankful for still being able to breathe, for still being able to hear the Dharma, for still having someone to love, for still having the opportunity to live better than yesterday. Each morning, instead of complaining about being tired, silently say, I am grateful that I am still alive today. That saying is a reminder, a chant that helps us awaken small but resilient joy. A grateful person will not fear loss, because they understand that what comes is karmic connection. What goes is liberation. They neither cling nor resent. They smile at what has passed and cherish what they have. Then their heart becomes free. This world may be full of changes, but a grateful heart is the anchor that holds us steady amidst life's storms. A grateful person is not caught up in gossip, not weighed down by comparisons, but lives lightly with their true self. They don't need life to be fair, because they find sufficiency in every breath. In the evening, before going to sleep, you can practice writing down 3 things you are grateful for. Today, who smiled at me? Grateful for a peaceful day. Grateful for still having the opportunity to learn the Dharma. Gratitude is not to count merits, but to remind your heart to remember. Each written line is a seed of peace. A month later, when you look back at your notebook, you will find your heart lighter, more joyful. Gratitude is not just words, but action. When we thank someone, let's live so they don't feel sad. When we appreciate our parents, let's care for them while they are alive. Not wait until they are gone to burn incense and pray. When we are grateful for life, let's contribute a small good deed to life. A word of encouragement, a smile, a helping hand are all ways we repay. Some ask, if I suffer too much, what can I be grateful for? The Buddha taught that adversity itself is our teacher. Because of suffering, we learn patience. Because of loss, we learn appreciation. Because of being hurt, we learn to love more deeply. When we look at suffering with grateful eyes, suffering becomes a lesson. A person walking in the rain, if they are grateful for the rain, will not complain about being wet, but will see the rain cooling the earth, watering plants, nourishing the river. A grateful person lives with a broad heart, so wherever they are, they find peace. Then, one day, when we look back on our lives, we will realize that what made us happy was not money or fame, but the small karmic connections that passed through us. It was a card someone sent, a meal mom cooked, a teacher's words, a passerby's smile. All connect to form a circle of wholesomeness. And gratitude is the invisible thread connecting all these things. Keeping a grateful heart means keeping a light in the mind. When we live in harmony with karmic connections, we no longer fear loneliness, because we know that everything around us is a teacher, a friend, a companion. Plants, clouds, sunlight, the sound of the temple bell, all are teaching us to live mindfully. Life may not be perfect, but gratitude makes us see it as more beautiful. Perhaps today we are still struggling. But if we have gratitude in our hearts, we still smile. Because when we are grateful, we not only see the good in others, but also the good in ourselves. And as the day closes, before closing our eyes, let's softly say one word: I am grateful for everything. That saying is like a small bell, dispelling all worries, warming the heart, soothing the winds of life. For as long as we know gratitude, no matter how life changes, happiness will always remain in our hearts. There are days when we do nothing wrong, yet are misunderstood by others. There are unintentional rumors, like passing winds, that leave deep wounds in the hearts of those they are about. Who among us has not experienced that feeling? The feeling of being hurt by untrue words about oneself. Some choose to react. Some choose silence. But not everyone who remains silent does so out of weakness. Many times, silence is because they see through it all. They understand that explaining sometimes only agitates the mind further. And an agitated mind loses its peace. The story of Ms. Hoa in the small village is a testament to this. Ms. Hoa was a gentlewoman who lived simply, running a small general store at the head of the alley. Everyone in the area was familiar with her gentle smile, her kind greetings every morning, and how she often added a little extra candy for the children whenever they came to buy things. Her life passed peacefully, until one day, rumors began to spread. People said she was greedy for money, that she deliberately overcharged customers. At first, it was just a few whispers. Then, from who knows where, it spread quickly, like a summer storm. Ms. Hoa heard them, and was initially very sad. She wondered how people's hearts could waver so easily. Just yesterday, they were cheerfully greeting each other. Today, they were suspicious, scrutinizing, and speaking ill behind her back. She went home, sat silently by the Buddha altar, lit an incense stick. As the smoke drifted up, she silently chanted, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." She didn't know how to explain herself, or where to even begin. But then, in the stillness of that afternoon, she heard a small voice within her heart. If others' words can agitate you, then you haven't understood your own mind. She joined her palms, bowed her head, and smiled. From that day on, she never mentioned the rumors again. If anyone asked, she would just say softly, "Let time prove it." And she continued to open her shop every morning, cheerfully greeting customers, kindly wrapping their purchases, and helping the elderly with credit. A few people remained suspicious, but gradually, time clarified everything. One day, the person who had started the rumors experienced misfortune. Their family faced difficulties, their child fell ill, everyone shunned them, and no one wanted to help. But Ms. Hoa was the first to bring a little rice, some medicine, and a gentle smile. The other person choked up, unable to speak, and everyone in the village was moved. Goodness, it turned out, needed no justification. If we live authentically, time will be the mirror that illuminates everything. The Buddha taught that a wise person doesn't need to prove anything, because truth is naturally unchanging. When we are misunderstood, we often suffer because we fear losing our image in the eyes of others. But that image is inherently unreal. It is only a reflection that others imagine of us. As for our own mind, if it is truly upright, what need is there to fear the dark? Silence is not avoidance, but a way to return and listen to oneself. In the stormy waves of worldly gossip, silence is the boat that keeps the mind from being swept away. One who understands the Dharma does not need to respond to every rumor, for they know that the more one tries to speak, the more others will want to argue. And argument creates vexation, and vexation creates suffering. In the Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha taught that the wise person is like a calm lake, undisturbed by wind. When others praise, the mind is not elated. When others criticize, the mind is not sad, because they understand that all words are merely fleeting sounds. Sounds are not real. Only one's own mind is real. If the mind is clear, nothing can obscure it. Many people, when slandered, immediately get angry, try to prove themselves, try to argue back, but the more they do so, the more they suffer. Because in trying to prove themselves, they have unwittingly allowed others to control their emotions. That anger does not come from the words of others, but from the clinging in oneself. When we believe we are hurt, we have created that hurt ourselves. Ms. Hoa understood this, so she chose silence. She chose to smile, chant the Buddha's name, and live as kindly as before. That silence was not endurance, but a form of compassion. For she knew that the person slandering her was carrying suffering in their heart. They were not happy, so they needed to speak something to feel lighter. She felt compassion for them and remained silent so they would not accumulate more negative karma. People often fear silence, because silence forces us to face ourselves. But only in silence can we truly hear the voice of our heart. Silence helps us listen to our breath, hear the heartbeat of our mind, hear the voice of the Buddha within us. When we are misunderstood or suffer, we can see it as an opportunity to cultivate our mind. For every false word about us is a lesson in letting go. Every suspicious glance is an opportunity to practice patience. Every hurt is a seed of wisdom being sown. If we learn to see it this way, then pain also becomes a path to enlightenment. The Buddha once said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred. By love alone does it cease." If we respond with anger, we are only continuing the cycle of suffering. But if we respond with silence and compassion, we are stopping that karmic flow. Some say, "But if I don't speak, they will think I'm wrong." The Buddha taught that we don't need everyone to understand us. It is enough for our own mind to understand itself. For when the mind is at peace, all gossip is like a passing wind. One who understands oneself needs no words. One who doesn't understand, no matter how much is said, it is useless. Ms. Hoa lived even more peacefully after that incident. She no longer paid attention to praise or criticism. She still chanted the Buddha's name every morning, lit incense every evening, and smiled at everyone. She realized that people could take away her reputation, but no one could take away the goodness in her heart. She understood that people's hearts are like water, sometimes cloudy, sometimes clear. Her task was not to stir it up, to prove her purity, but to keep herself from becoming cloudy. One day, someone asked her, "Sister Hoa, how are you so good? People speak ill of you, yet you are still happy." She smiled, her eyes gentle as the afternoon sun. "Because I know if I'm sad, I only make myself suffer." And the Buddha taught that suffering or not is our choice. That answer lightened the heart of everyone who heard it. A wise person is not afraid of being misunderstood because they know the truth needs no justification. But those who have not yet understood the Dharma always worry about losing their reputation, losing praise, losing a good image. But all those things are illusions. When we can let go of them, our hearts will be incomparably serene. Let time prove everything. Let our wholesome actions speak for themselves. A person with a clear mind, even if obscured by smoke and dust, will one day be recognized. A hypocritical person, even if praised, will one day be exposed. The Buddha taught that the wise person does not contend because they have understood the root of all things is impermanence. Praise will pass. Criticism will pass. Only a peaceful mind remains. If one day you are misunderstood, hurt by others' words, remember that you are not alone. The Buddha himself was slandered, misunderstood, yet he still smiled, because he knew that this world is inherently impermanent. People can change in a single breath. So the most important thing is not what others think of us, but whether our mind can maintain its purity. Try every time you feel agitated to pause, take a deep breath, and chant, "Namo Amitabha Buddha." That chanting is like a cool breeze blowing through the heart, sweeping away all worries. Then sit down and look back at yourself. You will find everything lighter. Silence is not doing nothing. Silence is a powerful action. It is how we keep the mind from being agitated, keep words from harming others, and prevent negative karma from arising. One who knows how to be silent is practicing. For in silence, there is wisdom. There is compassion. There is the understanding that everything has its karmic connections. And when we are calm enough to be silent, we are also clear-sighted enough to forgive. Forgiveness is not for others, but for ourselves, to keep the heart from harboring resentment. When the heart is pure, this world becomes less noisy. Amidst the many noises of life, silence is the spiritual practice of the wise. In life, no one can avoid times when others speak falsely about them, being judged for things they never did. The words of the world are sometimes like a biting cold wind, seeming to pass lightly, but leaving deep, permanent wounds in the heart. We can choose anger, choose to retaliate, choose to argue, but the more we react, the more agitated our mind becomes, the more our heart loses its inherent peace. Amidst all the noise of life, those who practice the Dharma choose a different way. They learn the art of living amidst gossip, learning how to be forgiving. The story of Mr. Min, a kind bus driver, is a beautiful example of this. Mr. Min has been a driver for over 20 years. Every day, he transports hundreds of people through bustling streets, through flooded roads, through long, agonizing traffic jams. He never complained, never raised his voice. People knew him as a driver with a gentle smile who always greeted passengers with, "Drive carefully now," as they got off the bus. One morning, during heavy rain, the water was halfway up the bus tires, and he had to temporarily change his route to avoid a deeply flooded section of the road. A young passenger, rushing to work and unaware of the situation, loudly cursed at him. He accused Mr. Min of taking the wrong route, wasting everyone's time. The harsh words echoed in the wet, cool morning air, silencing everyone on the bus. Mr. Min remained calm, his eyes looking forward, his hands steady on the steering wheel, and he simply said softly, "Please understand, sir. We are avoiding the flooded road." The words were short, but full of compassion, without resentment or annoyance, just a simple, calm explanation. The entire bus remained silent. The young man lowered his face, but tried to maintain his ego, saying nothing more. A few days later, when the weather was better, the young man happened to take Mr. Min's bus again. When he overheard the person next to him recounting the previous day's incident, he learned that Mr. Min had avoided the flooded road for everyone's safety. Regretful, he approached Mr. Min and softly apologized. Mr. Min turned and gave a gentle smile. "It's all right, young man. I'm old. Why bother getting upset? Driving safely is what makes me happy." Those words silenced the young man. All his anger, all his pride vanished in an instant. A person who is insulted, yet remains calm and responds kindly, must have a heart larger than the anger of the world. Hearing that story, everyone was impressed. Because Mr. Min was not just a driver. He was someone practicing the Dharma amidst life. He used forgiveness as his steering wheel, kindness as his road, and patience as his fuel to continue his journey. The Buddha taught that one candle can light 1,000 others without diminishing itself. Forgiveness is like that candle. When we extend forgiveness, we lose nothing at all. On the contrary, the light within us grows brighter. A kind person is not someone who doesn't know how to get angry, but someone who knows that anger only makes the heart suffer more. In life, people suffer not only because of circumstances, but largely because their minds are not broad enough. We easily get angry over a false word, easily hurt by a skewed glance, easily saddened by being misunderstood by someone. But if we look deeper, we will see that all these things are merely passing wisps of smoke. If our mind keeps clinging to the smoke, how can we see the sky? Forgiveness does not mean resignation, nor does it mean weakness. Forgiveness is when we understand that everyone carries some suffering within them. A rude person is a tired person. One who speaks cruel words is one who is hurt. If we respond with anger, we are adding fuel to the fire. But if we respond with kindness, we are helping that fire extinguish itself. Someone once asked, "If I keep being forgiving, won't others take advantage of me?" That question is very common and very real. But the Buddha taught that forgiveness is not for others to take advantage, but for our own mind to be free from clinging. When we have enough wisdom to recognize what is right and what is wrong, we can still act firmly without resentment. That is the wisdom of a spiritual practitioner in the world. In this life, no one can escape gossip. Those who do little are called lazy. Those who do a lot are accused of showing off. Those who are silent are considered disdainful. Those who speak out are seen as pretentious. No matter how we live, someone will be unhappy. If we constantly try to please everyone, we will spend our whole lives exhausted. But if we know how to return to living authentically with our wholesome heart, then no matter what others say, we will find peace. The Buddha once said, "Do not let the world's words extinguish the fire of peace within you." Indeed, the world's mouth has no boundaries. It can praise us today and turn to criticize us tomorrow. If we place our happiness in the praise of others, that happiness is very fragile. But if we place happiness in our own forgiving heart, no one can take it away. Forgiveness is when we can smile in the face of insult. Forgiveness is when we can look at someone who once hurt us and no longer harbor resentment in our heart. Forgiveness is when we understand that they, too, are just people searching for happiness in ignorance. When we look at others with understanding, we will be less angry. When we see that they, too, have been hurt, compassion will arise in our hearts. From there, anger transforms into compassion. Compassion is not something distant or profound, but precisely that forgiveness. In Buddhism, loving kindness and forgiveness are two wings of the same bird. Loving kindness is unconditional love. Forgiveness is the wisdom that sees through impermanence. When these two merge, one can attain true peace and joy. Someone may speak harsh words to us, but if we do not accept them, those words will return to them. Just as if someone offers us a dirty object, if we do not take it, it still belongs to the other person. So instead of reacting, take a deep breath and smile. That smile is a shield for the mind. That breath is the water that extinguishes the fire of anger. One who knows how to practice in every breath is one who understands that every reaction creates karma. A harsh word can lead to lifelong regret, but a moment of silence and forgiveness can resolve hundreds of karmic obstacles. Practicing forgiveness is not just for major incidents, but for small daily matters. When someone cuts in line, take a deep breath instead of getting angry. When someone forgets to say thank you, smile gently instead of blaming. When someone unintentionally hurts you, think that they haven't understood enough. A compassionate perspective helps us see clearly that the person who hurts us is also a victim of ignorance. They act out of confusion, unaware of the consequences, like someone walking in the dark without seeing the road. When we understand this, our heart naturally softens, and anger gradually dissolves. Once, a woman came to ask a monk, "Venerable Master, I cannot forgive my husband. He betrayed me, and I have suffered for many years." The monk asked, "If you carry a heavy stone all the way, won't you get tired?" The woman replied, "Very tired." The monk smiled. "Then put it down." The woman remained silent. Because sometimes we don't need to do anything. Simply putting it down is enough. When we practice gradually letting go, each breath becomes a miracle. Breathing in, we know we are angry. Breathing out, we know we are letting go. Little by little, each day, hatred transforms into compassion. Compassion into understanding. Understanding into peace. Then one morning, we suddenly realize that the old wound no longer hurts. Only gratitude remains. Grateful that thanks to that person, we learned the lesson of forgiveness. If one day you meet the person who once hurt you, smile, not to prove your superiority, but to say that you have healed yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but no longer feeling pain when you remember. just as a scar on your hand is still there but no longer aches. It reminds you of a past time, and also reminds you how strong you have become. Remember, forgiveness is not a gift for others, but a gift we give to ourselves. When we forgive, we are opening the door for peace to enter. A light mind makes life brighter, and when the mind is clear, all suffering naturally dissipates like morning mist in the sun. Start today. When anger comes, pause, breathe, chant the Buddha's name 10 times, look deep into your heart and ask, do I want to continue suffering, or do I want peace? The answer will lead you to the path of the wise, the path of forgiveness, of freedom, of light. For this life is short. Harboring anger only clutters the heart. Let your heart be broad, like a calm lake, reflecting the clear moon. Forgiveness does not make us weak, but makes us stronger. For only those with a great heart are capable of letting go. Then we will see how gentle this life can be, and we smile, understanding that as long as the mind is at peace, everything is light. Forgiveness is the path back to peace and joy that the Buddha taught. The path of the wise, of those who know compassion, of those who have truly understood the meaning of happiness. Life is not always smooth sailing. There are days when we wake up with sadness from unknown origins, with heavy feet stepping out the door, with a smile that even we feel is forced. But it is precisely on such days that an optimistic thought, a positive outlook, can become a light, illuminating the soul. People often say that one's attitude does not change the wind and rain, but it can change how we walk in the rain. A person who knows how to smile in adversity is not because their life is easy, but because they understand that suffering is also a part of the journey of spiritual growth. One afternoon, early season rain poured down a small alley. A poor university student named Han was walking quietly home to her rented room. Her old shoes were torn, her books and her bag were soaked. The cold rain seeped into her skin. Her hair was disheveled, her face dotted with water. But instead of getting angry, Han quietly laughed. Amidst the rain, she softly said, "Oh well, the rain washes away sadness. Tomorrow will be sunny again." A seemingly simple statement, yet it moved her roommate, who witnessed it, to tears. For in that gentle laughter was a whole soul at peace. When we face suffering with a smile, we are not denying the suffering, but simply choosing a different way of looking at it. Just as when we see a lotus growing in muddy water, we don't see the mud as bad, because it is from that mud that the flower emits its fragrance. The Buddha once taught that the mind is like a lotus. Even if it grows in mud, it still gives off a sweet scent. If our mind can maintain its purity amidst difficulties, we will not be defiled by circumstances. An optimistic person is not one who has never cried, but one who knows how to wipe away tears and continue with a smile. In life, all of us have experienced upheavals, loss, betrayal, failure, illness. Some people suffer endlessly over a small matter. Others see it as a lesson for growth. The difference lies not in what happens, but in how we perceive it. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from the mind. When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. When the mind is clear, life is also clear. Therefore, an optimistic attitude is the root of peace. Some people When they encounter failure, immediately blame life, blame fate, blame others for not helping them. But there are others who join their palms and give thanks, for thanks to the mishap, they learned how to get back up. They understand that every adversity is a karmic lesson. If today we meet someone who makes us sad, that may be the karmic result of what we sowed in the past. Instead of anger, we should see it as an opportunity to resolve, to cultivate patience and forgiveness. An optimistic person is one who understands the law of cause and effect, karma. They are not afraid of loss, not afraid of suffering, because they know that after the rain, the sky will clear. No night is forever, and no pain cannot be soothed. When one door closes, if we stop in resentment, we will not see another door opening. Optimism is the key that unlocks faith and resilience in every heart. Optimistic thinking in Buddhist philosophy is not about denying suffering, but about looking at suffering with the light of wisdom. As the Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, among those who hate, we live without hatred. Among those who are hostile, we live in peace. This means that even in a negative environment, we can still keep our minds pure. When we know how to smile through tears, that is when the mind begins to grow strong. When we know how to say thank you amidst loss, that is when blessings are multiplied. Han, the poor student from that year, later recounted that it was thanks to studying Buddhism, thanks to listening to the teachings in the temple, that she understood that suffering is not something to fear. What is to be feared is letting our mind be submerged in negativity. Every day she spent a few minutes chanting the Buddha's name, breathing and smiling. Each morning, she told herself, "Today, I will smile, even if just once." This seemingly simple statement is mindfulness practice. For every smile is a lotus blossoming in the mind. Every optimistic thought is a wholesome seed sprouting in life. Sometimes we cannot change circumstances, but we can change our perspective. Just as the sun's light still exists, even when obscured by clouds, so too is the human mind. When we are optimistic, we will find light within ourselves. When we are pessimistic, we only see darkness around us. A person with an optimistic mind knows that even if life is difficult, there are still things to be grateful for, still opportunities to love, still reasons to smile. Someone once asked a Zen master, "Venerable Master, I face many sad things. How can I maintain an optimistic mind?" The Zen master replied, "Look at the flower by the roadside. Who does it bloom for? No one. And also for everyone. Humans are the same. If you live with a pure soul, you will naturally emit fragrance for yourself." That teaching awakened many. Optimism is not about finding joy outside, but about creating light within the mind. Buddhist teachings instruct us to contemplate impermanence. Everything changes. Today's suffering may be tomorrow's joy. Today's difficulty may be tomorrow's peace. Realizing impermanence, we no longer cling to suffering, but learn to cherish the present. When we know that everything is temporary, we learn to live lighter, complain less, compare less. One who understands impermanence will not be sad for long, will not harbor resentment, but will simply smile and accept. An optimistic attitude is also an expression of faith in karma. When we do good, speak good, think good, then even if we encounter adversity, blessings will silently ripen. like a tree in winter, appearing dead. But inside, life is sprouting. A person with strong faith in karma will not be pessimistic, for they know that no merit is ever wasted. When we have faith and optimism in our hearts, we will spread positive energy to others, like Han that year. Just a smile in the rain changed her roommate. Both chanted sutras, recited the Buddha's name, and learned gratitude together. Gradually, that small, poor room became filled with laughter and peace. Joy comes not from material things, but from a mind directed towards wholesomeness. An optimistic person is also one who knows how to let go. They don't cling to what is lost, don't dwell on what has not yet come. They simply live fully in the present, because they know that only this moment truly belongs to them. When the mind is directed towards the present, we will find every breath precious, every sunrise worthy of appreciation. Sometimes, just changing one thought can change life. When we say, "I am suffering too much," suffering immediately increases. When we say, "I am grateful for still having the opportunity to live," the mind immediately brightens. Optimistic thinking is a healing medicine for a weary soul. There is no need to force artificial happiness. Just genuinely feel the good things that are still present. That is true optimism. If one day you feel heavy-hearted, pause, take a deep breath, and chant the Buddha's name. Tell yourself, suffering is just a cloud. I am the sky. When you chant like that, your heart will soften. You will see yourself no longer as someone who is hurt, but as someone learning to grow. Remember, optimism is not the absence of suffering, but learning to smile with it. Amidst life's storms, believe that the light of the Dharma still illuminates the path. When you maintain an optimistic mind, you are creating blessings for yourself. The Buddha taught that a wholesome mind is the root of blessings. A clear mind is the source of peace. Therefore, whenever you encounter difficulty, do not complain. Smile and say, like young Han did, "Oh well, the rain washes away sadness. Tomorrow will be sunny again." That saying is not just faith in tomorrow, but a reminder that within us there is always the strength to rise again. The more the mind knows how to smile, the more blessings arise. Let your mind be like a lotus in the world. Even if surrounded by mud, it still emits a fragrant scent. For an optimistic person is one who has found the path of peace and joy within suffering itself. And when we learn to look at life with the light of love, we will find that happiness is not far away, but blossoming right in every peaceful breath of our own. There are days when life seems to close before our eyes. All doors seem to have shut. All hope seems to have extinguished. In such moments, people often see only enveloping darkness, feel overwhelming sadness in their hearts, forgetting that it is precisely in the dark night that seeds of light are sown. When one door closes, it is not the end, but merely a transformation for us to begin learning how to be more mature, more profound, and more peaceful. Ms. Lyon once owned a small general store in an alley near the market. For 10 diligent years, she built it with all her sweat and faith. She believed that as long as she was hardworking and honest, life would not betray her. Yet that year, misfortune struck. The economy was difficult. People bought on credit frequently and didn't repay. One night, during heavy rain, the corrugated iron roof of her store was swept away by the wind. Merchandise got wet, resulting in heavy losses. Then, a prolonged epidemic forced the store to close. Every penny of capital, saved over 10 years, she watched it disappear day by day. She sat in a corner of her house amidst piles of unsold goods, silently watching her child sleep soundly. That night, she cried not just for the money, but for a feeling of powerlessness, having lost all faith in herself. She had believed that anyone who worked hard and was kind would be blessed by heaven. Yet, why was life still so harsh? She began to complain, to sigh, to ask herself, am I born to suffer? During those months, she lived like someone who had lost her way. Each morning, she no longer wanted to open her eyes. Looking at the beautiful sunny sky, her heart felt only gloom. People say, after extreme bitterness comes extreme sweetness. But for her, that bitterness seemed endless. One day, a neighbor invited her to the temple to listen to a Dharma talk. At first, she wasn't very interested. She thought going to the temple wouldn't change anything. But her neighbor gently said, just listen. Maybe your heart will feel less heavy. She went to the temple on a gently rainy afternoon. The temple bell resonated warmly, and the wind carried the scent of incense. The venerable master walked out, his voice slow. Kindness is like a cool stream of water, seeping through her parched soul. The master said, each person's life is like a kite. Without wind, the kite cannot fly high. Every gust of wind is a challenge. Only with strong wind can the kite be lifted higher. Without suffering, how can we see the Four Noble Truths? Without failure, how can we know what it means to let go and start over? Those words were like a ray of light piercing through the gloomy rain clouds in her heart. For the first time, she sat still, breathed deeply, and felt the temple bell resonating within her mind. The bell did not dispel the wind and rain, but it somewhat dispelled the heaviness in her heart. Returning home, she sat silently, reevaluating everything. She realized that all this time, she had only seen life through the lens of loss. She had forgotten that suffering is also a natural part of life, just as rain and sun, day and night, cannot be separated. If we only wished for endless sun and no rain, what plants could thrive? She began to change. Each morning, instead of complaining, she woke up early to sweep the yard, lit an incense stick before the Buddha altar, and then sat chanting a few phrases of Namo Amitabha Buddha. At first, she chanted only to lessen her worries, but the more she chanted, the more she felt something gentle settling within her. Negative thoughts gradually diminished, and her mind became more peaceful. Then one day, she decided to start over. This time, she didn't open a large store, but simply set up a small table in front of her house, selling a few odds and ends, mainly just to have something to do. She smiled and told herself, no need to be rich, just need to be at peace. Gradually, people noticed she was happier. She sold her goods with a light heart, without rush, without anger, without much calculation. If someone was a few thousand short, she would let it go. If someone was sad about life and stopped by to buy a bag of salt, she would listen and console them. People cared for her because of her simple way of life, because of her gentle smile, like a soft breeze. And so, her small shop became busy again, not because of the merchandise, but because people found a little peace there. When someone asked her, Sister Lian, how are you so optimistic now? If it were me, I would have given up long ago." She just smiled. I wanted to give up, but then I remembered the master's words. "Without wind, the kite cannot fly high." Now I know suffering is a teacher that teaches me how to stand up. Indeed, the Buddha taught that in the Four Noble Truths, suffering is the first truth. It is because of suffering that humans begin to seek the Dharma. If life were only favorable, who would realize impermanence? Who would learn how to let go? It is precisely our wounds that make us grow, precisely our tears that make us understand the value of a smile. When we are suffering, we often ask, "Why me?" But when we overcome it, we smile and say, "It was because of me that I learned resilience." That is the process of transformation in the mind. Suffering does not make us fall. Suffering is only a challenge for us to grow. In Buddhism, everything that happens has a karmic connection. Challenges do not come to punish us, but to illuminate what we need to see. In loss, we learn impermanence. In betrayal, we learn compassion. In failure, we learn humility. And in loneliness, we learn to return to ourselves. If there were no suffering, how would we appreciate joy? If there were no failure, how would we understand the value of a single success? If there were no night, how would we cherish the dawn? Life is long, always balanced in its own way, and one who understands this will be more at peace than anyone else. Ms. Lian recounted, "The day I lost all my money, I thought it was the end. But now, looking back, it was a gift. If not for that loss, I would not have learned to slow down, to be grateful for every breath, every meal. Now I am no longer afraid of suffering, for suffering is also a teacher." The Venerable Master, hearing her words, smiled. "You have understood the truth. People often pray for peace, but true peace only comes when the mind knows how to follow conditions. Challenges do not diminish blessings. They are opportunities for you to sow more merits if you know how to be grateful for them." He gave an example. A lotus does not grow in dry soil, but in mud. It is thanks to the mud that the lotus emits its pure fragrance. Humans are the same. Only by passing through life's mud do we learn to keep our hearts pure. Those words touched the hearts of the listeners deeply. Each of us, at some point, falls into our own mud. Mistakes, failures, hurts. But instead of rejecting it, look. It is from that mud that we are growing every day, learning to forgive, learning to love, learning to smile amidst the storm. Challenges do not come to make us suffer, but to teach us how to truly live. For if there were no suffering, we would forever remain naive children in life. The Buddha taught that in suffering, there is truth. In suffering, there is a path to liberation. One who looks deeply will see flowers blossoming in suffering itself. People often ask how to overcome challenges. In truth, there is no need to overcome as if fighting a battle. One simply needs to walk through them with a calm mind. When the mind is at peace, challenges become light. When the heart is clear, darkness is no longer frightening. Like someone crossing a river, the more they struggle, the deeper they sink. Only when we relax will the water naturally lift us up. Challenges are karmic connections for growth, gifts for us to understand ourselves better. Some, fearing pain, run away, but the more they run, the more pain pursues them. Some dare to face it, dare to look directly at fear, and they find peace. Because the truth is that fear is not outside of us. It lies within our own minds. When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace. If today you are suffering, remember it is not a punishment, but an opportunity to pause, look deeply, and learn to listen to yourself. Practice chanting the Buddha's name every morning and evening. Sit still, breathe gently, and tell yourself, all suffering will pass. I thank life for giving me this opportunity to grow. Just like Ms. Lien, when she learned to embrace challenges with a grateful heart, her life began to change. People saw her not only living better, but also radiating a peaceful energy that made everyone who met her feel at ease. Her soul was like a lotus after the rain, still emitting fragrance despite having once been in the mud. The Buddha taught that one who is grateful in suffering has wisdom. One who smiles in adversity has understood the Dharma. Those words are not just for reading, but for living. Every time suffering comes, let us smile and silently join our palms, saying, "Thank you, challenge. Thank you, life, for giving me this lesson." Because in the end, all suffering will also become a beautiful story, like raindrops falling to the earth, seemingly lost, but transforming into water that nourishes plants, like the wind, seemingly only bringing cold, but helping kites fly higher. And like today's sadness, seemingly a burden, but later becoming the strength that leads us to the shore of peace and joy. Believe that every challenge bears the form of a lesson. Every tear contains the seed of a smile. Embrace everything with a grateful heart, for only when our heart is grateful can we see the true meaning of suffering. As we sit quietly, listening to the temple bell resonating in the still afternoon, let our heart dissolve into each reverberation. Each bell sound is a reminder. Live fully, even in the storm. Be grateful, even in loss. Smile, even in suffering. When we understand this, we will see that suffering is no longer frightening. It is just a part of the journey of growth. Like mud is part of the lotus, like night is part of day. And we, like small kites in the sky, will fly higher, thanks to the very winds we once feared. And then, looking back, we will be grateful for everything. Grateful for the rainy and windy days, grateful for those who once hurt us, grateful even for ourselves, for not giving up. Because thanks to all that, we can stand here today, smiling and saying, every challenge is a wholesome connection. Every suffering is a gift. The rain patters rhythmically on the old corrugated roof. Outside the porch, raindrops slide down the leaves and fall to the ground, breaking into countless small bubbles. In the old house, Mr. Lamb sits silently by the window, watching the rain. For several years now, he no longer loves the rain as he did when he was young. When he was working, he loved the rain. It made him feel life slow down, and people's hearts soften. But since retiring, losing his familiar rhythm of life, whenever it rained, he felt heavy-hearted. He was once an engineer, working for over 30 years, accustomed to a busy job, to the sounds of machines and people. Upon retirement, the house suddenly became too quiet. His children had moved away for work, leaving only him and his wife in the small house. But then his wife passed away early. The house, already silent, became even quieter. The sound of rain was like the tapping of time on his heart, making him feel adrift. Every time it started to rain, he would sit looking out onto the porch saying nothing, unable to eat or sleep. He felt the rain was bringing back memories, twisting into the emptiness in his heart. His mind began to suffer, depressed, quietly withdrawn, not wanting to interact with anyone. People called it geriatric depression. One day, his son came to visit, found his father sitting in the room, in the dark, hearing only the rain without the lights on. He walked over and softly said, "Dad, why do you sit here all the time? The rain is beautiful. I have something I want you to hear." Then he opened his phone and played the steady sound of a temple bell. The bell resonated, spreading through the space, blending with the sound of the rain. At first, Mr. Lamb didn't react, just looked outside. But then, gradually, the sound of the bell calmed his heart. His son continued, "Dad, my teacher taught me that when you're sad or worried, just sit still, breathe in deeply, and breathe out slowly. That is returning to yourself." He felt his first breath was very heavy, because he wasn't used to it. But then he tried to breathe in, listening to the sound of the rain, then breathing out, feeling his heart lighten a little. Like that, 3 inhalations, 3 exhalations, he felt his chest was no longer as tense as before. One day, 2 days, then a week, he began to open up more. Every morning, when he heard the wind outside the porch, he practiced breathing deeply, slowly, listening to himself. From seeing the rain as sad, he gradually realized that the sound of the rain also had its own beauty. The wind was no longer cold, the rain no longer heavy. He told his son, "I see the rain is also gentle, my son. It turns out peace never left. I just forgot to return." Mr. Lamb's story is perhaps similar to many of ours. Amidst the changes of life, we often forget that the most steadfast refuge is within ourselves. We search for peace outside, in work, in money, in relationships, in the recognition of others. But life is inherently impermanent. Everything external can change, and when it changes, we lose our support. This is why the Buddha taught, when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. When the mind is agitated, the world is agitated. Some ask, how can one find peace when there's so much turmoil around? The Buddhist answer is truly simple. Return to your breath. For the breath is the bridge between body and mind, between worldly life and the Dharma. When we inhale and know we are inhaling, we are returning to the present. When we exhale and know we are exhaling, we are touching life. The Buddha taught, with a single mind, undisturbed, one chants the Buddha's name and finds peace. When the mind is no longer scattered, no longer chasing the joys and sorrows of the world, then peace naturally manifests. Many people think peace must be found in a distant place, a place where no one bothers them, where there are no responsibilities, no worries. But in truth, peace is not the absence of storms, but having storms, yet not being swept away by them. This life is always changing. Sometimes we are happy to gain, sometimes sad to lose, sometimes love, sometimes anger, sometimes success, sometimes failure. Everything changes daily, like a river flowing ceaselessly. If we keep chasing every change, we will never find peace, because life cannot stop changing. Only our mind can choose to stand still in the midst of the current. Mr. Lamb understood this, not through philosophy, but through his own experience. From fearing the rain, he learned to listen to the rain. He sat still, breathed deeply, listening to the sound of raindrops falling, as if hearing the sound of time touching the old house. Then he realized that the sound of the rain was not sad, but simply the sound of time flowing, like the breath of the earth and sky, like the heartbeat of life. When his mind ceased resisting, the rain again became gentle. His son recounted, "My father was so uncomfortable back then. Just hearing the rain, he would close the doors. Now, every time it rains, he opens the door, brews a pot of tea, sits, and listens to the rain, watches the trees gently sway, and smiles kindly." That smile was not the smile of someone free from suffering, but the smile of someone who understood that suffering and joy are just two sides of the same coin. When you flip it to one side, you see suffering. Flip it back, and you see joy. But both are still one. A wise person does not chase joy, nor does they flee from suffering. They simply observe, smile, and breathe. When breathing deeply, the mind is at peace. Wisdom is clear. When wisdom is clear, we are no longer swayed by external changes. That is true peace. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, there is no path to peace. Peace is the path. This means we don't need to search for another place to find peace. In this very moment, if we pause, become aware, and breathe steadily, peace is already present. Some say, life is so difficult nowadays. Society is competitive. There's pressure at home. We worry about making a living, then worry about our children when we get home. We're spinning all day and don't even know what peace is. But in truth, what makes us tired is not the work, but the restless mind. The mind always wants more, better, faster. And that's why it's tired. When we learn to pause, even for just one breath, we return to ourselves. Those who study Buddhism understand that peace doesn't come from outside, but from inner awareness. Some people travel to find peace, but carry their anxieties with them and remain restless. Others live amidst a crowded market, but their hearts are as light as clouds because their minds are unattached. So peace lies not in the place, but in the mind. If you are lost in life's changes, try sitting still, breathing in deeply. Feel the air entering your lungs, nourishing every cell. Breathe out slowly, releasing the tensions in your mind. Just 3 times like that, you will feel something gentle settle. That is a moment of peace. When the mind is at peace, we see life differently. The sound of rain is no longer sad. The sound of wind is no longer lonely. The sound of the temple bell is no longer distant. All are just the natural sounds of life. And each sound reminds us, don't chase changes. Listen to return. The Buddha taught that one who knows how to pause has wisdom. Pausing is not giving up, but knowing when to reflect during the journey to go further. Amidst all changes, one who knows how to return to their breath is the strongest, because they understand that everything external is temporary. But this breath, this moment, is real. Many people live their whole lives without truly breathing. They just inhale to exist, but don't feel life passing through them. If we know how to breathe in with mindfulness, how to breathe out with gratitude, we will see that every breath is a gift. Peace is not far away, but in this very breath. When Mr. Lamb sat listening to the rain, he no longer felt lonely. He felt himself and the rain existing together, the rain falling outside, his breath rising and falling in his chest. These two rhythms merged into one. His mind settled, his eyes softened, and a gentle smile appeared on his lips. His son, seeing this, also smiled. One morning, he wrote in his small notebook, "In the past, I sought peace in silence. Now I find peace in the sound of rain." A short sentence, yet it is the result of an entire journey of returning. For when one truly understands, one needs to search for nothing more. One only needs to breathe, only needs to live, only needs to be grateful. Life is a river that always flows, never standing still. Peace is not about making the river stop, but about learning to surrender to its flow. No struggling, no resisting. When the water flows, we flow with it. When the water is still, we reflect ourselves. Thus, even if life changes, the mind remains at peace. The Buddha taught that one who lives with mindfulness, even amidst the marketplace, is as if in a temple. As long as the mind is not agitated, any place is a pure land. As long as the heart is not deluded, every sound is a Dharma sound. Try, even just once, to sit quietly early in the morning, listening to the birds, listening to the gentle wind pass through the house, then breathing in and out, not thinking about yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, just being present in this moment. You will find you don't need to go far. Peace is already here. Peace is not a gift from heaven, but the result of daily cultivation. A person who maintains a calm mind, no matter how life changes, will still smile. A person who practices mindfulness in every breath, every step, no matter how many storms come, will remain firm as a mountain. When life is turbulent, remember the Buddha's words. When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace. Practice looking at everything with the eyes of compassion. When someone hurts you, breathe out and say in your heart, "They are also suffering." When something frightens you, breathe in and remind yourself, "I am still alive." When you lose something, remain silent and be grateful for having once had it. Amidst a life full of changes, one who maintains a peaceful breath possesses wisdom. For wisdom does not come from books, but from awareness in every moment. And it is that wisdom that helps us live peacefully amidst all storms. Peace is not far away. It is in how we see, how we hear, how we breathe, and how we smile at ourselves. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out slowly. Breathe in, we are living. Breathe out, we are smiling. Breathe in, we feel life. Breathe out, we are grateful for everything. Peace has never left. We just forgot to return. As life goes through countless storms, people often seek a refuge, a source of light to comfort their souls. Some search for happiness in material possessions, some in fame, in the impermanent things out there. But then everyone realizes that true happiness is not found far away, but right within oneself. In every way we think, how we see, and how we face life. Amidst myriad sufferings, if we learn to think optimistically, to keep our minds at peace, that is the path to enlightenment, to true mental freedom. There is a story that the Sutra of Spiritual Responses wants to tell about a man named Min. He was once easily angered, pessimistic, and always believed his life was unfair. Every time he failed, he would lament his fate, asking why others were fortunate while he always suffered. One evening, during a quiet rain, he stopped by a small temple near his home and coincidentally heard the abbot's Dharma talk. The abbot said, "When your mind is agitated, the world around you will be restless. When your mind is calm and stable, everything external becomes gentle. Happiness is not having a lot, but when you find sufficiency in small things." These words deeply touched Min's heart. He returned home, trying to look at his life with different eyes. Instead of complaining about what he didn't have, he began to be grateful for what he still possessed. Grateful for a roof over his head, for a simple meal every day, for loved ones who still cared. Even though he sometimes became irritable, after a short time, his mind lightened, and he realized that it was his own attitude that determined his happiness, not his circumstances. People often think they must achieve something, must go somewhere to find peace. But the Buddha taught that all suffering or happiness begins in the mind. Our mind is like a lake. When the winds of greed, anger, and ignorance blow, the water surface ripples, distorting all reflections. When the wind subsides, the lake is clear. Everything is distinct and peaceful. Thinking optimistically does not mean denying suffering, but looking at suffering with eyes of understanding and compassion. For within suffering, there are always hidden lessons that help us grow. A person who understands the Dharma is not one who no longer faces difficulties, but one who knows how to smile amidst difficulties, knowing that everything has its karmic connections. What comes will surely go, knowing that every challenge is temporary, like rain that will eventually stop. An optimistic person is not afraid of rain. They know rain helps the earth to blossom, helps trees to sprout leaves, helps people's hearts to love sunny days more. In Buddhist teachings, there is a short yet profound saying, "When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace." When our mind is at peace, even if there are storms outside, we can still feel tranquility. But if our mind is agitated, even in the most beautiful place, we will feel uneasy. Optimism is the art of keeping the mind at peace amidst life's turbulence. When we learn to see everything with the light of faith and wisdom, suffering also becomes material for spiritual practice. An optimistic person is not one who doesn't stumble, but one who, after every fall, knows how to get up with a smile. They are not afraid of loss because they understand that nothing truly belongs to them forever. They do not harbor resentment because they know that resentment only makes the heart heavier. They choose forgiveness, choose love, choose to live lightly. And when the mind is light, steps are also light, and life becomes more ethereal. Once, someone asked the Buddha, "How can I always be happy, even though life is full of suffering?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "When you learn to look at everything with an unattached mind, you will find joy amidst suffering and peace amidst loss." That answer is simple, but contains infinite wisdom. For most human suffering does not come from circumstances, but from clinging, comparing, and not accepting what is. When we think negatively, small matters become huge. When we think positively, big issues become lighter. Life does not change according to our wishes, but we can change our perspective. Like someone walking in the dark. If they carry a lamp, the road may still be winding, but at least they are not afraid. Optimism is that lamp, illuminating the steps through the dark night of life. Some say, why should I be optimistic when life is full of suffering? But precisely because life has suffering, we need optimism to avoid being overwhelmed. Optimism is the boat that helps us cross the stormy seas. Without it, we easily give up, easily let our minds fall into darkness. One who understands the Dharma does not flee from suffering, but smiles and walks through it, because they know that light only appears when the night is deep enough. One afternoon, as the sun set and the wind gently rustled the leaves, the temple bell rang long. Amidst that space, we suddenly feel our hearts settle, each breath passing gently, like a flowing river. If we learn to return to our breath, to listen to ourselves, to smile at the present, then no matter how the world changes, our mind will remain as steadfast as a mountain amidst the clouds. Optimistic thinking is not just a way of life, but a spiritual practice. Every time things don't go as desired, instead of complaining, ask, what is this teaching me? When we learn to ask that question, suffering becomes a teacher. Adversity becomes a wholesome connection. For every tear shed can water the seed of wisdom. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent. Everything comes and goes, gathers and dissipates. If we understand that, we will no longer fear loss, no longer suffer from change. An optimistic person is one who understands impermanence, so they cherish every present moment. They know that a smile today is also a blessing. A peaceful breath is also happiness. Try to sit still for once. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath, then exhale slowly. Feel your breath going in and out. Feel your heart beating. Just like that, you will feel yourself alive, present in the moment. And that is the simplest happiness that many people search for their whole lives. Finally, when we learn to live optimistically, we not only bring joy to ourselves, but also sow light for those around us. Our smile can warm others' hearts. Our positive words can help someone overcome a dark day. Each person is a lamp, and when many lamps light up together, this world becomes less dark. Happiness is not in a distant place, but right in the mind, when we know how to live optimistically. When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace. When we choose to look at life with eyes of love, life also smiles back at us. No matter how life changes, as long as we maintain a wholesome mind, live contentedly, and practice gratitude, every day can be a sweet Dharma lesson. May all who hear these words find peace and joy in body and mind. May all vexations dissipate, and may every day be a day filled with light and happiness amidst the many changes of the world. Please remember that optimism is the path to enlightenment, the key that opens the door to peace and love.